Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know, my name's Alyssa. Nice to meet you, maybe. For today's video, you are in for a treat. I'm about to give you 50. Guess you heard me, 50 highly specific book recommendations based on your request. Let me tell you, guys came through. Some of the requests were a little concerning. I hope everyone's okay. But I did find some books that matched them pretty well, if you ask me. If you want to be involved in anything like this in the future, follow me on Instagram because that is where I would be posting it. Honestly, I think we're just gonna get started. I'm not gonna go too in depth at all, probably, with any of the books because there are 50 of them and we will be here all night. The first request I received was a book that will leave me feeling unsettled. For this one, I immediately thought I'm thinking of ending things. This book was chilling. So I actually listened to the audiobook for this one in one sitting at like 4 a.m. and that was a huge mistake because I was so creeped out. Something happens if you've read the book, you know. But the audiobook like narrator for it gave me like literal chills. So I recommend the audiobook as well as the book. I actually received multiple requests for something along the same lines, and that is something that will traumatize me. Are you guys good? But a book that will definitely leave you traumatized is Tender as the Flesh. If you don't know anything about this book, it takes place in this sort of like dystopian society where animal meat is out and human meat is in. Like, I wish I was kidding. On a more positive note, I want a book that makes me feel annoyingly giddy and constantly blushing. For this, I'm definitely gonna recommend Icebreakers. It is a college hockey romance, reverse Grumpy Sunshine, and I eat that up. It is really cute, and I really liked it. The next request I've seen is a book for the Letterboxd fan, and I love this question. I would probably recommend Bunny. I just feel like Bunny would be like an A24 movie. It follows a toxic group of friends that call each other Bunny, and it's really weird. And I just think Letterboxd fans would eat it up. This person just wrote this person just wrote Girl Boss Gaslight Gatekeep. LOL. Love them. If you wrote this question, you probably already read Gone Girl. It is like quintessential good for her energy. I would die for Amy Elliott Dunn. But if you haven't read that, read that. But another book I think you would really enjoy is A Certain Hunger. Every time I think of this book, I just think of this one Goodreads review, like, as a society, we should normalize MILF cannibals. And honestly, that's like the vibe of the book. That's all you need to know. What I got was books to read while snowed in at your parents' house. I do not like the snow in winter, but as someone who lives in Boston, I do have to deal with it a lot, and I have a bunch of good snow recs for you, but I think my favorite one is probably Rock, Paper, Scissors. It pretty much takes place during this blizzard at this like remote home, and this couple's trying to fix their marriage, but then they realize weird things are happening like around the house. Someone else may be there with them, but they are trapped because it is a blizzard, and things get crazy. The next one says weird but a good time. I clearly found my people because this is my favorite genre. The first one that pops in my head has to be The Pisces by Melissa Broder. If you know, you know, it gets really weird. So the next one says Studio Ghibli vibes. Of course, if you haven't read Howl's Moving Castle, do that. You probably have read that though if you did ask this question. So a good alternative is House on the Cerulean Sea. A classic that won't bore me to tears. That's so real. Definitely The Picture of Dorian Gray. By far, it's my favorite classic. Everyone should read it. I am not a huge classic girly. I want to become it. The language and the writing in the book is very easy to digest. It's really witty. It's really funny. It's just a good time. Wait, this one's wholesome. A book that restored my faith in humanity. Definitely Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, or honestly any book by him. They're so wholesome and so like heartwarming. Those are like the words I would use to describe it. I remember when I first read Anxious People, it gave me like a hopeful feeling that maybe people aren't that bad and we're kind of in this together. Dark Academia, that isn't If We Were Villains or The Secret History. Okay, so I literally been waiting for this question. In my opinion, the most underrated Dark Academia book has to be These Violent Delights. I don't see enough people talking about it, and we as a society need to change that. This book, guys, has all the good key ingredients for literally any Dark Academia. It has toxic friendships, obsessive behavior, pretentious characters, an academic setting in New England, I think. And maybe even murder, who knows? You gotta read and find out. A book that would have done so well on Tumblr. Coming from an ex-Tumblr girly, I got you. Trust me. I mean, like, books that give off the same, like, John Green, coming of age, Perks of Being a Wallflower vibes that, like, took over my life during that phase. For this one, I would definitely recommend Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This book feels like a coming of age movie. Like, it definitely brought me back to all those good feelings of reading like a John Green book for the first time. A book to accompany me while I figure out my 20s. Please, like, when you figure them out, let me know because I don't know what I'm doing. But I do have a good recommendation for you, and that is Happy Hour. This book follows two besties living in New York together, just trying to figure out their lives. Like, aren't we all? I love this next question so much, and that is something that feels like catching up with an old friend. I have the perfect book for this, and that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. It is a memoir that follows Dolly's life, and when you're reading it, it literally just feels like she is telling you the story personally. It talks about like her relationships and her friendships and everything in between, and it's just so good. The next one's such a vibe, and that is a book that feels like listening to Ribs for the first time. I love this one. If you haven't listened to Ribs by like our Lord and Savior, please do. Like, please listen to it now. Like, drop everything, stop the video, go listen to the song. I feel like a book that matches the song perfectly is Perks of Being a Wallflower. If you know, you know. What falling in love feels like. Definitely open water. Open water, read it all day, every day, open water. Feeling of just like falling for someone is perfectly encapsulated in this book. Dark academia, but make it fantasy. Ninth House. All the way. It got Ghost. It got a Yale secret society setting. What more can you ask for? Wait, this one's so me. A book where you want to ship all the characters with each other. I love it. When I read this, the Atlas Six immediately popped into my head. Seriously, everyone is so hot. And you're gonna want everyone to get with each other. It just has Fleabag vibes, and I love it. I feel like I said this a million times by now, but if you love Fleabag, you need to read Sorrow and Bliss. I don't make the rules. Messy relationships. Magnolia Parks, I'm looking at you. But if you want toxic, god-awful, like, don't base your relationship off of them, messy, Magnolia BJ. That is you guys. Golden Retriever Boy and Grumpy Girl trope. I love me reverse Grumpy Sunshine. For this, I'm actually going to say a book I haven't read yet, but I know it's this trope, and I'm going to read this month, and that is Maggie Moves On. A book where you feel the characters slowly spiral into madness. Yellow wallpaper. Yellow wallpaper. All the way, every day. Pretty much in this, you watch a woman spiral into absolute madness because no one around her believes what she saw. Something for the K-pop girlies. For this, I'm definitely gonna have to recommend If I Had Your Face. I love this book. This book follows multiple different women living in South Korea, and one of the perspectives is from a girl who is obsessed with K-pop. Something that gives Wuthering Heights vibes. For this, I have the perfect book. I am so confident if you like Wuthering Heights, you'll like this one. And that is A Dowry of Blood. Pretty much has like that same like gothic atmosphere with like really toxic relationships. Book pretty much follows Dracula and his brides, and it's insane. This one just says, has good quotes for IG captions. But I got you, don't worry. And that book is Only Dull People Are Brilliant at Breakfast by our bestie Oscar Wilde. Literally a book of like short musings and like sentences and like anecdotes of Oscar's brain. And he's so funny and he's so witty. And I feel like you got a lot of good caption material for that. Next one is Toxic Friend Groups, Please and Thank You. But one of my favorite ones for this is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. These bitches are messy. Like, messy. A friend group that loves each other but like very much resents each other. It's dual timeline. It takes place during their college days and then it takes place at a reunion years later. We have a common theme here with request, and this one says Obsession Gone Madness. For this, I have to recommend The Talented Mr. Ripley. It pretty much follows our main character who's sort of like a con artist of sorts. But then he meets this guy named Dickie and he becomes so obsessed with this man that he slowly starts to like morph into him and try to be like him, and it gets wild. Something that will make me gag. Why? But I guess if you really want to gag, Livonia by Otis Moshfegh. Disgusting. I get like, ooh, just thinking about it. I don't like it. There's a lot of descriptions of like body parts. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying, but like, it freaked me out. It really freaked me out. I didn't like it. It takes place in like medieval time. It is really gross. And there's like, oh, there's this one scene. Oh, there's actually a lot of scenes. There's just one scene that makes me like literally want to throw up just thinking about it. So we're gonna move on. I'm a theater kid. Give me something. I love that. I honestly love that. Um, if you haven't read If You Were Villains, read that. I feel like they talk a lot about like theater and performing, and you probably would like that. Kill Men Energy. Definitely read Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. I feel like you might really like Arena as a protagonist. She is terrifying and unsettling and kind of like interesting to read about. I don't know. A strained best friend relationship. For this, I'm going to choose a recent read, and that is The Villa. It's dual timelines. One of the timelines follows these two best friends who like low-key resent each other, and it's just like really off between them. And then the other timeline follows like these two sisters that also kind of have like a very strange, resentful relationship. When I finish it, it will leave me staring at the wall. I already said it, but I'm gonna say bunny again because when you finish it, you're just gonna be like, oh, oh, oh. Books with messed up protagonists, but you love them anyway. For this, I feel like the Mindfuck series is perfect. It's kind of like a romance, kind of like a thriller. It follows this girl, Lana, who is a serial killer. Like, oh, like maybe we shouldn't be supporting her. But then you find out why she's doing the things she does. I get it. I kind of support you, you know? This one's so cute. Books that radiate cottagecore energy, and for that, I'm gonna have to recommend Twice Shy. It's a romance that follows this girl who's like trying to open up a hotel bed and breakfast sort of thing, and it's just like very much cottagecore vibes. I can't explain. Something to read during my European summer. I'm jealous. Can you bring me? I feel like for this, it would be illegal not to recommend Call Me by Your Name. Basic, yes, but honestly, it matches the vibes way too perfectly to not. Okay, the next one says Black Mirror vibes, and honestly, anything by John Mars is a go. Specifically, I would recommend The One and The Passengers. Literally, it feels like something that would come straight out of a Black Mirror episode. Another romance that feels like normal people. My fave. For that, I'm gonna have to recommend Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. It just has very much like soulmate energy, kind of like how you feel like Connell and Marianne are soulmates. I feel like Alden and Reagan in this are. Similar to Normal People also dives into some deeper topics such as mental health. I am obsessed with the next question. The girls who like Wes Anderson and want quirky, weird characters to relate to. I feel seen. For this, I have to recommend Franny and Zoe, especially if you love the Royal Tenenbaums. They have very similar character dynamics. Young people living in NYC. Definitely a book I mentioned before that works really well for this is Happy Hour, but another rec would be Sweet Butter. Something so addictive you'll clear your whole schedule for it. For this one, I'm gonna have to recommend Finley Donovan is Killing It, which is kind of like a cozy mystery. It follows a single mom who accidentally may have killed somebody, didn't mean it. Every single chapter of this book literally ends on the worst cliffhanger, and then you're like, well, I guess I had to read more. A romance that feels actually real. For this, I have two recs. One is like more the romance, and that is 7 Days in June. And the one I think everyone already knows I'm gonna say that is more lit fic is Normal People. These books just are really realistic on what falling in love and being in a relationship really are like. Sad gay lit, swimming in the dark. I am so sorry for the tears in advance. The next one is a book if you strongly identify with Amy March. Oh my god, I feel you because I am an Amy girl at my core. I would love to be a Jo. Joes are amazing, but I am an Amy. For this one, I'm going to recommend a YA book, but I feel like their characters are kind of similar, and that is To All the Boys I Loved Before. I feel like Laura Jean and Amy March both have middle sister syndrome, and they both also loved boys that their older sister has loved and they should not be loving. The next one is anything Living Dolls trope, whether it's cute or scary. I'm gonna give you a scary one, and that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. If you do not like puppets, if you do not like creepy Annabelle, scary looking dolls, don't read this. I had a bunch of similar requests for the next one, and that is books about women going insane. Are we all okay? If you haven't read Night Bitch yet, definitely check it out. I feel like this is something you would like. It follows a mom who is just like so over motherhood and her kid and her husband that she literally gets driven to the point of insanity and believes she is turning into a dog. The next question is a book that Daisy Jones would love. I feel like she would be beyond obsessed with anything Patti Smith, especially Just Kids. The vibes are there. Next one is a female main character that is iconic. So obviously I'm gonna have to give this one to my girl E. Babbitts with the book Slow Days, Fast Company, The Lives and Flesh of LA. I think that's what it's called. It's a long title. This book is pretty much like a semi-fictional recount of E's life, just being like a hot girl, living her best life as a muse in LA, having everyone fall in love with her. Just typical Eve things. Eve is iconic in this. She is so witty, she is so charming. I can see why everyone falls in love with her because I definitely fell in love with her while reading. Love interest that give off Nick Miller. That is exact, but I do have a book for you, and that is Beach Read. Said it before, but Nick Miller and Augustus Everett are the same man in different fonts. Except I feel like Gus maybe has his life together a little bit more than Nick. But if you are in love with Nick, I can guarantee you'll probably fall in love with Gus. Guys, I feel like I've been talking forever, but we are at our last question, and that is dystopia books that make you rethink humanity. For this, I have to choose Severance. My mind was like blown reading this. I read it at the very start of the pandemic, which honestly, horrible timing. Read the room. Like, I was bugging because this girl literally predicted our pandemic. Very much a pandemic novel and kind of like zombie apocalyptic. I can't say apocalyptic. Zombie my god, apocalyptic? Apocalyptic. Why can't I say that? You know what I mean. Oh my god. Honestly, I don't even know how to describe this book, but it's very anti-capitalism. It's really cool, really different. Just read it. Okay, so hopefully you guys found at least one book that you really liked. If you didn't, please lie, because I spent a dumb amount of time trying to find books for this. If you guys want to be involved in something like this in the future, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Hawker Literature and be subscribed. Okay, I am done. I really think I'm gonna take a nap now. That took a lot out of me. But I will see you guys next time. So, bye.